yesterday. Chargers losing in Arrowhead to the Kansas City Chiefs 27-24. Patrick Mahomes, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns. Herbert, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, probably a couple of broken ribs. Very good game. It was a slow beginning to the game, but the fourth quarter really picked up. Very entertaining, if nothing else. But obviously, Herbert, with that injury, probably a broken rib, really changed how that game was going to go. He couldn't do anything. You saw that scramble out on third down where he could have easily picked it up, probably could have picked up an extra 10, 15 yards. He just says, nope, and just chucks it out of bounds because he couldn't run. I imagine he couldn't even slide if he wanted to. So like the pain and discomfort he was in clearly had a big impact on the game. But now it is fair to question, why was he in the game still in the first place when you're down 10 with 3 minutes left to go? I really have to question Brandon Staley for that.
Yeah, I do as well. And I was saying get him out of the game, get him out of the game. Like not even just because he's on my fantasy team, but just for the fact like the man probably has a couple broken ribs. He's sitting there on the sideline. He's holding his ribs. He can barely breathe. And that's the guy that is supposed to go out there and drive you down the field. Given he did that, but still, like it's week 2. It's not week 17. You're not fighting for a playoff spot right now. It didn't make sense to me, especially down 2 scores. The likelihood of an onside kick we were talking about is less than 20%. It's just not worth it at this point in the season.
And it's really against with how they've had their philosophy for one of their other star players in Austin Eckler. We've seen the backups get a lot of work. We saw a lot of former Miami Dolphins, Sony Michel. Didn't even see a regular season game, but I think you still call him a former Miami Dolphin.
Yeah.
If you want to call Joe Cinco a former Dolphin, you can call Sony Michel a former Dolphin. We saw Michel get quite a few carries last night, and as Austin Eckler fantasy football owners, we definitely hate to see that. Eckler ended up finishing with a very respectable scoreline in fantasy, but you see how they are acting with Eckler, and they clearly don't want to burn him out. And we've seen him get injured. We saw him get injured last year. They clearly don't want to have that repeat going forward. So they're trying to deploy more backups. You have your star quarterback who is clearly, if nothing else, in excruciating pain, even if no further long-term damage is there. You can clearly see there's something wrong there. You're down by 2 scores, 3 minutes to go. Chase Daniel isn't a world beater, but he is the textbook definition of a backup. He's going to, make the right throws. He's not going to turn the ball over. You're probably going to lose this game anyways, so don't risk further damage. And we don't know what further damage he may have caused himself or Staley may have caused Herbert by keeping him out there. I would be concerned as a Chargers fan, and I'd be concerned if Staley's the right guy to lead him to the promised land for that, and just for a multitude of reasons, like going back to the last season, like the play calling, the 4th down decisions. I don't really know if he completely knows what he's doing.
Yeah, those critical decisions, and he's like, "Oh, I want my opponents to fear us, and I want my team to know I have that confidence in them." It's like, yeah, you want that, but you also want to be smart with the football. You don't want to put your defense. I mean, yeah, it's a really good defense, but against Patrick Mahomes, you're going to go for it on 4th down when you're up by a score on your own 40. Like that makes no sense to me when you can pin them on the 5. Like go and do what you need to do as a coach. Like, yeah, there's certain plays like McDaniel had that 4th and 7, but it was with 18 seconds left.
And it worked.
So given it worked with Staley too, but you're talking about a lot of time left in the game, and you're giving them time and good field position to go and score.
Right.
So it didn't make sense to me. Most of his decision making. I also didn't like on the interception play, and I said if you really want to break it down, you can put it on Everett, you can put it on Herbert, or you can put it on coaching. Everett was dying of exhaustion out there. He was begging to get off the field after that catch that put him on the 2. And then they decide to hurry it up, keep him out there, and then throw it to him? Come on now.
Yeah, Staley, as a defensive coach, you get less leeway in this league. We saw Brian Flores last year. Brian Flores had really 3 good seasons as Miami Dolphins coach, 19 wins in 2 years. You look back at the last 3 seasons, Only four teams have won more games than the Dolphins, that being, or I'm sorry, three teams, that being the Chiefs, Titans, and the Bills. So Flores was doing great, and he got the Yanks just because the offense stunk. The offense doesn't stink with the Chargers, but it definitely never really reaches its full potential. You have a top five quarterback in Justin Herbert. You have great weapons: Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Gerald Everett's now done pretty well for the Chargers through his first couple of games. You have Eckler and a great running game. There's no reason that this shouldn't be one of the best offenses in the league. And a lot of the time you find it stalling. You find it very methodical and very stiff. And there's really no excuse. Like we saw last week with Miami and how the difference between Flores and McDaniel, how smooth everything looks, how there's opportunities to get yards and get down the fields, even though it wasn't perfect. You saw what it should look like. You saw a little vision. You saw a little preview. We have some great weapons, but I'm taking the Chargers offense as a whole, everybody considered, that offensive line, those weapons, the quarterback. I'm taking the Chargers offense over the Dolphins offense. And the Chargers offense last night and the week before, even though they won the week before and they were up last night, the offense sometimes looks like the Dolphins teams over the last couple of years, where you're like, why are we struggling to move the ball? Dolphins didn't have the skill makers or the skill position. We didn't have the playmakers.
And we definitely didn't have the coaching.
Definitely didn't have the coaching. Now with the Chargers, you have the playmakers, you have the quarterback. What's the last issue? The coaching. Yeah. And I think that's going to be a legitimate concern for the Chargers. And as the season goes on, if they miss the playoffs, I think Staley's gone.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And I think, it all comes down to the head coach as far as, even though he's the defensive play caller and Joe Robbie's the offensive play caller, I think he has a say in, let's slow this down a little bit. Let's protect the ball. Let's not, and I think there's a real, what's the word I'm looking for? Difference, like a disconnect between that. Like when he wants to, go all out, I mean, dude, they're driving down the field. Herbert has the ball in his hand. He can do so many different things with the ball. But then you tell him to slow it down and be a basic offense and kind of run the ball. I mean, you try to run it up the middle with Eckler when they know you're running it. And then it seems also that they don't really trust. I'm not going to say trust. They don't put the play calling ability into Herbert's hands. I know that's a lot with, young quarterbacks nowadays, where they just give them two plays and they just go kill, and then they go to the second play. But there was one play that he went kill and went to, once again, Eckler in the backfield and just ran into a wall on 3rd and short. Why not give him the ability to, go out there and say, okay, I want you to run a quick slant or whatever? Like, he has that ability now. I think he was able to see a defense, but I don't know if there was a pass or a different run play called and they killed to the second play, but
yeah, Herbert has the talent to run pretty much any offense you give him. Mm-hmm. And he's not expected to grasp everything day one. Like Mahomes last year or 2 years ago, he's like, I'm just learning how to read defenses. He's learning the next steps of what it takes to be a good quarterback. But in order to do that, you have to give him the opportunity to go out there and either fail or succeed. And there is going to be some failures. But with how good Herbert is, like we even saw him with that long pass, the play immediately following after where he just throws the ball instead of running for the first down. Next pass where he zips it on a line in stride, hits his guy down the field. It was beautiful. Beautiful pass.
Incredible. There's probably only 3 or 4 quarterbacks that can make that throw in the league right now.
A very, very slim margin.
I don't even think Brady can make that throw anymore.
Probably. I mean, maybe not, but like I would.
Then again, I would trust that pass to Julio.
Yeah, I would trust Brady to do that, and Aaron Rodgers to do that, and Mahomes to do that.
Those are the 4.
Yeah, but there's not a lot. There's definitely not a lot there, and Herbert can make that throw and can make an abundance of other throws. So why isn't he given that opportunity to be a little riskier, to be a little more flashy? Because we see that he's almost treating him like Oregon did, where he's giving him like the same type of throws, the same type of plays, where he's not really able to show off the talent he has. I think Staley is holding this team back, whether it be decision making, whether it be coaching, and whether it be just this offense. This offense should be the best offense in the league,
Mm-hmm.
on par with the Chiefs, on par with the Vikings, these other teams that have these star players. But they have everything. They literally have top to bottom that entire offense, everything you could ever want in an offense. The Chargers have.
Yeah.
Why aren't they able to put teams away? Why last week against the Raiders, I'm not sure if you got to watch that game. The Raiders did not play good at all. They only lost by 4 or 5 points. The Chargers dominated that game except for the scoreline. Every other aspect of the game, they dominated. The time of possession, passing, rushing yards, I'm not sure for rushing yards, but they led the way. But the Raiders still had an opportunity there at the end of the game where you're like, there's no way the Chargers or the Raiders should still be in this game. The Chargers should have put them away. The Chargers can't do that. It burned them last year, and it's already burning them again this year.
Yeah, because like we talked about, they were in control through the first 3.5 quarters of that game, and they still lost. How you can't be in control of the game and lose like that, and it's just like why? And going back to what you said a little bit before, like you're not giving him enough room to actually do what he can do. There was multiple throws that it's like, okay, you're throwing to this guy and that's it. Like when he threw to Mike Williams with 4 people on him. Like, come on, why are you throwing that? That's a predetermined route. Same thing with the Everett throw in the end zone. They got pick six. Like that's a predetermined throw. Given that's a little bit better because it's it's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be a quick throw. But the Mike Williams crosser in the middle, that's not a quick throw. Why is that predetermined for him?
Yeah, that's predetermined before he can even read the defense, and that is at a point in the game where he has the broken rib, presumably. So his internal clock is completely thrown off, and his timing is gonna be completely thrown off. But yeah, throughout that game yesterday, even before that, like I said with the Everett throw, a lot of question marks, and it's not the personnel. I'm not sitting here like, why'd Herbert make that throw? That's something we, as Dolphins fans, we're like, oh, if Tua did this, like, what would how would me to respond? No, Herbert's earned the right because he is a top 5 quarterback to have a few blunders, to have a pick six, to to underthrow or overthrow a ball. Mahomes isn't perfect. Brady isn't perfect. Nobody's perfect. He's earned the right to have blunders and move on and for good to happen. He's not the issue. Team's not the issue. The roster is not the issue. What is left besides the coach? And now it is week 2, very early on still. And let's say Herbert does miss some time, which I think we both think that he will. You have a very, very, very favorable schedule coming up here. For like 5 out of the next 6 games are winnable with or without Herbert. You have next week home against the Jaguars, on the road against the Texans, the Browns. Then you have to play the Broncos, but at home on Monday Night Football. Then you get to play the Seahawks and you get to play the Falcons. So realistically, the Chargers should come out of the Falcons game with maybe 2 losses, worst case scenario, 3 losses, even with Chase Daniel. So this stretch of games will be very telling for Brandon Staley. Winning games you're supposed to win, like we're talking about him being in control and the team being in control, being in opportunities where you should still win games, and they haven't. Well, these are very easy games you have up here with Herbert or without. So we'll see how the Chargers do. Herbert, hope the best for him, hope the best for your fantasy team. Because, that connection with him and Mike Williams yesterday really helped you out in the first half.
Oh, absolutely. And it kind of it blundered me as to why Mike Williams wasn't involved more in the second half. It almost like they were throwing away from him. I don't know. But once again, that's I'm not sure if that's Joe Robbie. I'm not sure if that's Brandon Staley, but it all goes back to the head coach. That's the reason Flores was fired, because once again, he couldn't in 3 years he couldn't get a single play caller to call it correctly.
Exactly. So big weeks here for the Chargers. Chiefs been strong. We didn't talk about the Chiefs once here. We'll talk about them just really briefly. Mahomes, good game, not perfect, not bad by any means. He had kind of like a Tua game from last week, 24 for 35, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has got to be a very welcome surprise for the Chiefs team, the Chiefs fans. Now, most of his rushing yards were on that one long 52-yard run, finishing 74 rushing yards. Did have 4 catches for 44 yards. So, his fantasy owners are having a good time. So there wasn't anything special about the Chiefs yesterday. But guess what? They won. They won against the Chargers. And the Chiefs coming out of their first 2 games, very difficult first 2 games on paper. You see it. We saw it against the Cardinals. They dominated. And they played the Chargers yesterday, and they come back from behind. And really, things are not getting any easier. They have a very, very rough schedule. Next week, going on the road to the Colts, I think should be able to handle that. But they have to play the Buccaneers. They get to play the Raiders at home. Then they play the Bills. They play the 49ers. I don't really like the Titans, but still, the Titans, number 1 seed last year. So the Chiefs, complete opposite from the Chargers. Chargers have a very easy run of things. The Chiefs are about to run through about as difficult as a stretch as you can. So these 2 stretches for these 2 teams, very different directions, but will equally be very telling for where they end up on the other side of those runs.